get practical advice for your next project. Admission is free, powered by T-Fiber, February 13th through the 15th. Don't miss the Miami County Home and Outdoor Living Show. Your home, your style, trusted for 70 years.
From the Montgomery County Clerk of Court's office, I'm Shannon Crabtree. Join us for Clerk Mike Foley's award-winning Connecting with the Community speaker series, connecting citizens to local leaders. Join us on Tuesday, February 17th, as Erica Hubler from the Wright Dunbar Business District shares efforts underway to restore this historic and growing corridor. That's Connecting with the Community from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Employment Opportunity Center in the Westtown Shopping Center on West 3rd Street in Dayton. Another example of how Clerk Mike Foley is bringing the courthouse to you.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, save up to $700, plus get a free adjustable base with select Sealy Posturepedic mattresses. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
The Justin Kinner Show here on a Wednesday. Welcome in, everybody. 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410, the number to call or text. That's how you can be involved. We're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. We are live on the Justin Kinner Show YouTube channel, and, of course, live with you right here on 1410 Wing AM. Got a lot to dive into today. Last night, the Pro Bowl games. Who cares, right? Joe Burrow asked in the postgame, hey, a lot of people are speculating, just how happy are you in Cincinnati? His response, we have that for you coming up around the corner. Dayton puts an end to their 4-game losing streak, and they snap that with a win, an ugly win, but a win's a win at this point if you're Dayton against St. Bonaventure. A lot going on, or not really a whole lot going on at the arena. We'll talk about that coming up here just around the corner. Wright State sitting atop the Horizon League. They're on ESPNU tonight, as they're on the road, and they're at Robert Morris. Robert Morris knocked the Raiders out of the Horizon League tournament last year. Of course, Robert Morris would go on to win the Horizon League tournament and go to the NCAA tournament for the first time since joining the league. But Wright State, the first time going up against Robert Morris this season. That'll be later on tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPNU. We'll also have it for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio and our sister station, 1015 The Fridge. We don't talk a lot of NBA on the show, but the trade deadline, that's my favorite part of the NBA season. I mean, I used to love the NBA. I used to love watching the NBA. And the trade deadline, to me, the NBA always had the best trade deadline. I do feel like the NFL's trade deadline is, we've seen an uptick in that. I mean, you think a couple years ago when the 49ers were able to get Christian McCaffrey, how big of a deal that was. I mean, they get Christian McCaffrey. They ultimately, go on that huge run towards the tail end of the season. Probably would have made it to the Super Bowl if they didn't have, all 10 quarterbacks on their roster hurt all at the same time. But we've seen big moves, big splashes made at the deadline in the NFL, and it's picked up. It's fun. Major League Baseball, I love their trade. Their trade deadline's a blast as well, because it's more than halfway. It's more than, past the halfway point of the season. It's almost like, it re-energizes you for that last push heading into the playoffs. The NBA, though, is a sport that's kind of regressed in its popularity, but, it has everybody buzzing right now. James Harden, a Cleveland Cavalier. I don't know really what to make about that, to be honest with you. James Harden, officially the Cleveland Cavalier after the Cavs decided to move on from Darius Garland. So we'll talk about that more coming up here around the corner as well. And I don't think LeBron's going to be a Cav at this trade deadline, but I do think LeBron's going to be a Cav again at some point. And I'm curious the appetite that Cavs fans, that NBA fans, that LeBron fans, how much of an appetite do you have for LeBron Cavs 3.0? We'll talk about that more coming up here in just a little bit. Okay. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. And I want to open up with, of course, last night, the NFL Pro Bowl games. Look, the bottom line is this. We don't care about the Pro Bowl. I get it. I don't care about the Pro Bowl either. In fact, I wouldn't even be talking about the Pro Bowl whatsoever if it really just wasn't for one soundbite that was pulled from last night's Pro Bowl games. For those of you who do care about the score, the NFC comes away victorious over the AFC 66-52. Who cares? But last night after the game, of course, or in the middle, I don't remember the exact time of it, but Joe Burrow was specifically asked about, hey, there seems to be a lot of people that are questioning just how happy you are in Cincinnati. You think about some of those press conferences he had. They had a lot of Bengals fans really worried and concerned about his happiness in Cincinnati. There was a lot of people that were, a little concerned about that. The Bengals were losing again. They were in the midst of missing the playoffs for the third straight season. This is not what people envisioned when Joe Burrow was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, especially after making it to the Super Bowl in only year two. Especially after making it to the Super Bowl in only year two. And I think that's what has a lot of people talking as far as that goes. So last night, Joe Burrow was specifically asked, hey, what do you say? Well, there's a lot of fans wondering just how happy you are in Cincinnati. Here's what Joe Burrow had to say.
Yeah, I am. I think, everybody has bad days, right? Everybody has bad days. Sometimes they fall on press conference days. So, that's how it goes sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of Bengals fans were happy to kind of hear that tone and to hear how loose and how much fun Joe Burrow was having at the Pro Bowl games. That's a much different tone than the tone that we were getting from him, past the halfway point of the season. He rushed back. He got back a month sooner. He was able to rush back a month sooner than what we had anticipated due to the turf toe injury after going out in week 2 against the Panthers. We were kind of sitting back waiting, or it was the Jaguars, I'm sorry. He goes out in that game against the Jaguars. They say, hey, he's going to be out for the majority of the season. He's not going to be back until the midway point of December. At that point, the season's done. But he came back. I mean, we're talking at that midway point, past that midway point in November. And it just kind of brought, a huge sense of urgency when it came to, man, Joe Burrow's back, so is our playoff chances. That wasn't the case. They continued to lose football games. And it's just like all the energy in life was kind of sucked out of Bengals fandom. Joe Burrow looked defeated. He sounded defeated. And it was one of those things where, man, it's like Bengals fans has had enough. Media had had enough. And for the first time since Joe Burrow became a Bengal, you were starting to sense that he has had enough. Also, it doesn't help that some of you guys are having a little PTSD when it comes to the unhappy quarterback that is not pleased with the direction of the franchise, not pleased with how they lack urgency, and could potentially force his way out. You've seen that movie before. That movie was actually shot in your city in Cincinnati. So everyone was a little on edge. Joe Burrow said, if he's not happy, what's the point of playing? But the bottom line is, listen to this again. Listen to how happy Joe Burrow seems to be when asked about his happiness in Cincinnati. I think he's fine in Cincinnati based on this. Take a listen.
Yeah, I am. I think, everybody has bad days, right? Everybody has bad days. Sometimes they fall on press conference days. So, that's how it goes sometimes.
That sounds like a guy that, look, the season's been done for well over a month now. Joe Burrow, he hasn't played football in about 3.5 weeks. It's one of those things where the emotions are kind of taken out of it a bit. He's out there on the field with some friends from other teams. He's out there with Jamar Chase and company. He's out there loose and having a good time. I don't think that, that anger and that frustration that he felt in the middle of the season is there right now. But 937-518-1410, Bengals fans, you hear that tone, you hear that response. How much happier, how much better do you feel about the current situation with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals? By the way, I'm not a Bengals guy. You guys know this. At no point did I feel like Joe Burrow was about to force his way out of Cincinnati. That reassures me and everybody that there's no chance he's going to force his way out of Cincinnati, at least this offseason. But at the same time, if you listen to that tone of Joe Burrow and say, oh, thank goodness. Whew, thank goodness. I am glad that Joe Burrow said that last night. That no, he was having a bad day, that he doesn't actually believe, or that he doesn't actually, that he's not actually unhappy in Cincinnati. He was having a bad day. And it just so happened that the bad day that he was having happened to land on press conference day. And that's what that emotion was all about. I'm here to tell you, you all think that's a good thing. I'm here to tell you why I think it's a bad thing. Here's why I think this comment of his is a bad thing. Because of your reaction right now. That is why it's a bad thing. And here's why. Every single one of you, when you heard that clip, said, oh, thank God. Whew, thank goodness. Joe Burrow was just having a bad day. He had a mic in front of his face while he was having a bad day, and he let his emotions get the best of him. Whew. All right, cool. He's not unhappy. You know who's also feeling that sense of happiness right now, hearing that, is the Bengals front office. We've seen this Bengals front office react to Joe Burrow when he is being demanding and throwing his weight around, and I mean in a good way. We saw that last year when Joe Burrow would make his way up and down Super Bowl media row when he was demanding that the Bengals get deals done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson and Mike Gesicki. We saw that when Joe Burrow was pushing his weight around, that the Bengals responded. They didn't want to sign T. Higgins. They wanted T. Higgins. They didn't want to extend T. Higgins because they had other plans for that money. So my point is we've seen that when Joe Burrow speaks, that front office reacts. And when they sense that he's upset or they sense that he's not happy, they kind of panic and they kind of let him make the decisions. Joe Burrow coming out and saying, nah, I'm fine. I love it in Cincinnati. I'm not unhappy. Are you kidding me? We're talking about a guy that just missed the playoffs for 3 straight years, and he's laughing, joking, having a good old time. Not that I expect him to be lying down in the fetal position crying. But when you hear how happy Joe Burrow was and how happy he is in Cincinnati, to me, I feel like, and I don't think he did this on purpose by any means, but I do think there'll be a repercussion to it. You kind of let the front office off the hook. You know, if Tom Brady ever went 3 straight years without missing the playoffs, I don't think Tom Brady is going to be joking around at the Pro Bowl about how much he loves it in New England and he loves it there. And he, no, you could sense how angry Tom Brady is whenever his teams missed the playoffs. You sensed it throughout his career. That's what made him great. I just feel like, and Joe Burrow didn't do anything wrong. All I'm saying is based on fans' reaction to, oh, thank goodness, he's happy in Cincinnati. He's not letting the losing get to him. Guess what? So is the front office. Now the front office doesn't feel the urgency to have to make major moves outside of their comfort zone. They're like, oh, I mean, he's missed the playoffs for 3 straight years and he's still happy. Cool. I think that takes that. I think that does limit the urgency that front office faces when they hear that. Had he said last night, well, no, I mean, I am happy in Cincinnati, but I do know that things need to change. We need to start winning games. And if we don't start winning games, it's going to be, really, really tough to remain in Cincinnati. Those comments need to be said. I thought when Joe Burrow said that in the press conference, when he came back from injury, I actually thought that was a good thing because that was going to put the pressure on the front office to go out and make changes. But if Joe Burrow comes out like he did last night and just says, no, everything's fine, it's hunky-dory, I don't know how much pressure that puts on the front office, and I don't know how much pressure it puts on them to change their ways. I wouldn't expect anything outside of the blueprint of how the Bengals operate, which isn't very aggressive. They're going to rely on trying to nail it in the draft, something that they've tried to do for 3 straight years, and they've made their team worse in the process. So, I don't know. 937-518-1410. Bengals fans, curious your thoughts. It sounds like I'm being negative. I'm not. I'm glad that Joe Burrow seems to be back in good spirits, but man, oh man, all I could think about the whole time is, well, if you guys are all having that sigh of relief, so is the front office. And when that front office feels like there's a sigh of relief, they take their foot off the gas. That's why I think it's a bad thing. 937-518-1410. Agree or disagree? You can leave your comments in the chat on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page or on the Justin Kinner Show YouTube channel. We'll get into more of that when we come back. Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We got some Dayton Flyers, Wright State Raiders, more college basketball talk coming up around the corner as well. More of the Justin Kinner Show next.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Taxes was waiting on the refund you needed yesterday. All right, your car repair is going to run about $3,000.
Ugh.
Now Taxes is getting back on the road with TurboTax and Credit Karma, where you can get your refund up to 5 days faster and get personalized guidance to take every dollar further. Now this is Taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. Deposit a federal refund into Credit Karma Money account and early submission of refund data by IRS required. Terms apply. Banking services provided by MVB Bank Inc. Member FDIC. Credit Karma is not a bank.
At Advent, we help sleep apnea sufferers avoid the CPAP machine by getting your nose and throat working with our unique Advent approach that you won't find elsewhere.
Tax season is here, and I'm sure you're thinking about who is going to do my taxes this year. Try my friends at Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle. Call Michael Maxwell and Joe Tanis today, 937-543-5770. They're ready to serve you at 100 South Church Street in New Carlisle. Arrowhead Tax Service gives back to the community through athletics and nonprofits, and all new clients save 10% off. Online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ohio has over 920,000 diabetics. If you are a diabetic, take a step in the right direction by having your feet checked routinely by a podiatric physician, the most qualified doctors to care for your feet. Adding a podiatrist to your healthcare team can help you better manage the effects of diabetes on your feet. Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association podiatric physicians are located throughout the state. For more information or to find a member of the Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association near you, visit ohiofoot.org.
You like saving money, right? We all do. That's why Allstate just lowered the price of car insurance. Not, but wait, there's a catch. Lower. Actually lower. So if you're shopping around or just want to see how much you could save, check Allstate first for a new lower auto rate that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Not available in every state. Only applicable for new auto insurance business. Rates will vary by several factors, including how you purchase the policy. Potential savings vary. Allstate North American Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
And now, Public Education Matters with Ohio Education Association President Jeff Wensing.
School secretaries, custodians, nurses, paraeducators. These are just a few of the education support professionals who help schools in Ohio run smoothly every day. We are so grateful for these educators who ensure our students have a safe ride to school, healthy meals, and so much more. Please join me in saying thank you.
Public Education Matters, brought to you by the Ohio Education Association.
Free live music has returned to downtown Dayton at the Levitt Pavilion with the 2024 Eichelberger Concert Season of 44 concerts. Grab your coolers, lawn chairs, and your dancing shoes and get ready for an unforgettable summer. View the full lineup at levittdayton.org.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinder Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Tax season is here, and I'm sure you're thinking about who's going to do my taxes. Try my friends at Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle. Call Michael Maxwell and Joe Tanis today, 937-543-5770. They're ready to serve you at 100 South Church Street in New Carlisle. Arrowhead Tax Service gives back to the community through athletics and nonprofits, and all new clients save 10% off. Online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction. Again, I'm Justin Kinder. We welcome you back. We opened up the show. Again, last night, Joe Burrow was asked at the Pro Bowl games, there's some people questioning, just is he happy in Cincinnati? I think it's a stupid narrative. I will defend Bengals fans and the Bengals on this. You could tell, the national media is really pushing that narrative that Joe Burrow is going to be a Jet or someone else. Let me put it this way. If Joe Burrow is tired of losing in Cincinnati, why in the blue hell would he want to go to the Jets? In all seriousness, if Joe Burrow ever did force his way out of Cincinnati or just chose not to go back to Cincinnati, the team to me that would make the most sense for Joe Burrow would be the Los Angeles Rams. Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, he just screams Los Angeles. He just looks like LA. He like, to me, if he ever did leave Cincinnati, it would be Los Angeles to me, as far as that goes. I feel like he's a West Coast guy. I know he's from Ohio. I know that that's what makes him so great. But look, this is a guy that does seem bored in Ohio. And, he spends the majority of his offseason outside of Ohio. I don't blame him. If I was rich, I would do the same thing. But that's besides the point. Joe Burrow asked if he's happy in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I am. I think, everybody has bad days, right? Everybody has bad days. Sometimes they fall on press conference days. So, that's how it goes sometimes.
That's how it goes sometimes. But here's the deal. Like I said, first of all, if you're a Bengals fan, that has to make you feel good because, hey, you can hear the joy in his voice again. He's laughing. He's joking. Like he doesn't have that. He mumbles when he talks, and it drives me nuts sometimes. But he wasn't mumbling. He was talking very clear. He seemed upbeat. He seemed happy. That should make you happy, right? Here's why. And again, people said, "Oh, there's Kenner trying to find a way to make it, be negative." No, I'm not Shaw. I'm not a negative person. That's Shaw. Shaw's the negative person. I'm not being negative here. Here's my concern. Anytime that Joe Burrow has kind of spoken with any kind of force, the front office responds. When the front office feels like everything's all hunky-dory, they take their foot off the gas. When you get to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game in back-to-back seasons, they stopped being aggressive with roster management. They stopped being aggressive in free agency. They took their foot off the gas. They thought they were the smartest, scouts in the room, all 2.5 of them. You know what I mean? Like they took their foot off the gas. Then Joe Burrow goes on Media Row last year, and the Bengals, to me, I'm telling you right now, I think some of you would agree, if Joe Burrow doesn't do that Media Row run last year, I don't think T. Higgins is a Bengal today. And that's not a shot at T. Higgins. We know how good T. Higgins is. It's just a matter of, I don't think the Bengals wanted to invest $70 million into 2 wide receivers. I don't think any team, I think that's the wrong decision anyways. I don't think any team should invest $70 million into 2 wide receivers, but that's besides the point, okay? And I say that because the only reason T. Higgins is a Bengal today is because Joe Burrow spoke with force. The Bengals got intimidated by Joe Burrow's kind of tone when he did that Media Row last year. All right, Matthew Sense. What up, Matthew? He says, I agree 100%. I know that doesn't happen often with me and Matthew. I don't think T. Higgins is a Bengal if it wasn't for Joe Burrow doing that Media Row run last year. I love T. Higgins. I would love him in Cleveland. Trust me. I just don't think he's a Bengal if it wasn't for Joe Burrow. So my point is when Joe Burrow speaks with authority, the front office, they respond. So my only pushback to the tone of Joe Burrow last night is, and yes, for his mental health, I'm happy. Like he does seem to be in a better place. He did not seem to be in a good place. He's an ultimate competitor. He hates losing. Was it a little, maybe tantrumish, when they started losing when he came back in late November? Absolutely. But I kind of like when athletes are pissed off after a loss. I would be concerned if Joe Burrow is smiling and dancing around and acting a fool after a loss. So you like that. But the reason I go back to those press conferences when Joe Burrow was talking about what's the point of playing football if it doesn't make you happy, because you guys panicked. It got my attention. I'm not a Bengals fan, but it got my attention. I'm like, well, damn, he really is defeated. I joke about the being Bengalized thing. I joke about the Carson Palmer thing, but I'm a sports talk show host in Dayton, in Ohio. I need Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I don't want Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati unless it's going to be in Cleveland, right? I want Joe Burrow in Ohio because he's interesting. As much as I poo-poo on your team, I don't want Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati. So it got my attention even when he's talking like that, because I'm like, oh man, this guy sounds defeated. And you were nervous. It got your attention. It got my attention. But most importantly, the goofy dude that makes decisions on behalf of your team, unfortunately, Duke Tobin, I'm sure it got his attention. It got Mike Brown's attention. It got Katie Blackburn's attention. And when they sense that, oh man, our whole existence is because of Joe Burrow, if he's unhappy, we're screwed. Because if he does push his weight around and wants out, we're screwed. And I think they sensed that last year when, oh man, Joe Burrow is going on he's going on Stephen A. Smith's First Take. He's going on every show that he can get his hands and voice on to voice his displeasure with the lack of urgency and aggressiveness from the front office. They heard it. They responded. My concern, because when I played that clip and you heard the joyous response from Joe Burrow and we're all happy that he's in a better mental space, yes. But your response is why I would be concerned. Because if you all said, oh, thank goodness, he's not going anywhere, all these morons on national media, putting him with the Jets and putting him elsewhere, you could put all that to rest. But you know who could also put that to rest? The front office. The front office could sit back and say, all right, good. We don't have to go outside of our comfort zone to make a move with this roster because Joe Burrow's content. You just heard him. He said he's happy in Cincinnati. Now, maybe I'm overblowing this a little bit, but I think you guys know deep down I'm kind of right. There's too many examples of this front office. I don't want to say caving, but responding to Joe Burrow's tone. When he's assertive, when he seems displeased and unhappy, the front office responds. When things are going well and they don't feel pressure from Joe Burrow, you get to a Super Bowl, you get to back-to-back AFC championship games, you kind of get a little loosey-goosey. You take your foot off the gas. That would be my only concern, because if Duke Tobin and the Brown family, they heard that interview last night, and you know that they did, all of them probably slept I think that's the best that our entire family has slept in a long time, because Joe Burrow's happy, thank goodness. Phew. All right, let's focus on the draft now. Free agency. What's our plan there now? I just wonder how aggressive they're going to be if they feel like, okay, Joe Burrow's not as unhappy as what the rest of national media is trying to depict it to be. So let's go to the chat. Again, we're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. You could also text and call into the show at 937-518-1410. Ann Anderson, she messages into the show on Facebook. She says, give me a functioning football organization, please. One of the many reasons I'm a Broncos fan. And as we know, she's lived there way back when. She goes on to say they were a real organization then and still are. You're right. A good example of that. People say that the worst contract in the history of football, or that the worst trade in the history of football and contract and all this was the Deshaun Watson deal. And I agree with you. It's a horrible deal. It brought no results whatsoever, right? But you want to know what I think is as equal of a horrible decision, and that was the Denver Broncos when it came to Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos gave up a king's ransom to get Russell Wilson. They spent a ton of money. I mean, at least Deshaun Watson was in his mid-20s. They went all in on an aging veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson, whose best days were behind him. But you want to know the difference between a well-run organization and a bad one. Well, if it wasn't for Bo Nix's injury, the Denver Broncos 2 years later would be in a Super Bowl. Right? Like, Denver's a very well-run organization. We don't even talk about the Russell Wilson deal anymore. We don't even talk about how they're still spending money on that. That still impacts the Broncos, but yet we don't talk about it because all they keep doing is winning. And like I said, they're probably in the Super Bowl if it's not for Bo Nix's injury. And then there's Cleveland. Same exact situation where they lost all their first-round picks. The money situation hasn't really hurt them. It's the draft capital that they gave up to get them. That's the difference between a well-run organization and a poor one. The Broncos and the Browns did the same thing theoretically, but we don't talk about one. We only rip the other because the other is not a good organization. So, and I agree with you. The Broncos are a very well-run organization, and I don't think that their roster is as sexy as Cincinnati's. I mean, give me Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase over anything that the Broncos have, at least on the offensive side of the ball. But the Broncos are dull. They're boring. They're not very flashy. They get the job done. Cincinnati's not a very well-run organization, but they hide behind the flashiness of their big three, and that's how they kind of get away with it a bit. But so Matthew Sense also on Facebook says, I'm sure those conversations have been had behind closed doors. Do you think it's possible that he said it to show potential free agents that he's all right and not planning on leaving? Just playing. It's not a bad take, because the same thing is it's not a bad take at all. Because if you are Joe Burrow, and you are planning on sticking around, you may not, and he is sticking around. But if you're Joe Burrow and you're pissed off at the front office, it's also not a good look on behalf of the organization when your franchise quarterback is just miserable there. Well, it's like, yeah, I want to go play with Joe Burrow, but if Joe Burrow's miserable there, why don't, as much as I would love to play with Joe Burrow, I don't really want to go be miserable with Joe Burrow. I want to go win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. That's a good counterpoint. And Joe Burrow could be obviously playing the long game here as far as that goes. I will say this, though. He did seem legitimately happier. Like that tone, everything, that is a good thing nonetheless. But either way. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. I want to move over to college basketball, coming up more here in just a moment. But yeah, if you're just joining us last night, Joe Burrow was asked about whether he's happy to be in Cincinnati, and he said yes, that press conference, if you go back when he came back, a month and a half early from injury or a month early from injury, from the turf toe injury, everyone thought that, okay, he's back, they're going to win out. It was an easy schedule. They should have won. That did not happen. And he talked about just how miserable he was and basically just saying, hey, what's the point of playing football if you're not happy? And clearly saying he wasn't happy. Now that got overblown to, oh, he's not happy in Cincinnati. He's not happy with the Bengals. He wants out of Cincinnati. You could spin it that way, or you could just look at it. Even I can look at it and say, oh, he just wants to win. Like, I truly don't think Joe Burrow wants out of Cincinnati. Here's where I'm going to defend this whole stupid narrative and take, because I got tired of watching all the national shows. Literally tried to talk about how Joe Burrow, how the Jets they have all this draft capital. They need to give it all up to go get Joe Burrow. I mean, like, it's just one of those silly things where, like, because Joe Burrow wants out of Cincinnati was the take. No, that's not it at all. Joe Burrow doesn't want out of Cincinnati. And I'm going to defend Carson Palmer here as well. Carson Palmer didn't want out of Cincinnati. Carson Palmer wanted to win in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase wants to win in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow wants to win in Cincinnati. If these guys ultimately do get so frustrated to the point to where they want out, it's not because they want out of Cincinnati or because they hate Cincinnati. It's because they want to win. So I hate that narrative that's out there that Joe Burrow wants out of Cincinnati. No, he wants to stay in Cincinnati. He wants to win in Cincinnati. And that's why all the eyes and the fingers and the attention need to be all geared right back towards the front office. Duke Tobin, Blackburn, Brown family. This is a humongous offseason for them coming up. And I'm really curious, to see what is that first big domino going to fall? Because I think the first big domino that's going to fall is the decision that they make with Trey Hendrickson. I have been so wishy-washy on this. 1 week, I'm like, the Bengals are stupid for trying to keep him long-term. And then the next week, I'm like, it would be stupid to not keep him. ESPN put out their list of their top 50 free agents for the 2026 free agent class. Trey Hendrickson comes in at number 1. And I'm like, man, you have him. You have the worst defense in the league. You need all the help that you can get right now. I feel like it would be kind of silly to just let him go. It really would. It would be painful. Imagine wherever he goes, if he does go to another Super Bowl contender, you will run into him at some point. If your team does bounce back and get to a Super Bowl contender, Trey Hendrickson's going to go be a 49er. He's going to go to potentially the Seahawks. He's been linked to the Seahawks, a team that's already in the Super Bowl. But ultimately, if your team does bounce back to where you want it to get to, you're going to cross paths there. I'm so torn. I think that's going to be the first big domino to fall. I don't know what direction they're going to go in when it comes to free agency. Now, if they do go that direction, I think they have about $57 million from what I've read in, when you talk about the fact that the salary cap's going to expand, so that's going to free up dollars there for them to spend. They could, it's a big deal that they're going to have about $50 to $60 million to spend in free agency but they could potentially have even more if they do move on from Trey Hendrickson. But it's one of those where you already have Trey Hendrickson here. Why don't you just find a way to get it done? Because that's the other thing about Trey. People keep saying Trey Hendrickson wants out of Cincinnati. You guys aren't listening to the messaging, because I hear national media do that as well. Cincinnati's a disaster. Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, all these guys want out of Cincinnati. No, you're not listening, guys. T. Higgins demanded a trade because they wouldn't pay him because he wanted to stay in Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson wanted to stay in Cincinnati, may still want to stay in Cincinnati. The reason he's pissed and demanding out is not because he wants out of Cincinnati. It's because, why am I here if you don't want me here? He wants to be here. He wants to be here. And, we talked a lot of Reds this week. That's what I've always been kind of surprised by the Reds in this regard. Like the Reds are always put in this category with the Pirates and these other horrible organizations that, no free agents want to go to Cincinnati. But yet, how often do we hear certain players say how much they wanted to stay? Yasiel Puig wanted to stay in Cincinnati. You go to Nick Castellanos. In fact, this is what I loved about Nick Castellanos. He went to bat for Reds fans, and he said how much Reds fans deserve better. He wanted to stay in. He was pissed that the Reds didn't want him. He was mad that they didn't want him. Kyle Schwarber wanted to be a Red. All right, Eugenio Suarez took less money to come be a Red. Like, these athletes do love Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson wants to be in Cincinnati. So does T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins is in Cincinnati. He got the deal done. That's fine. But yeah, if Joe Burrow ever does want out of Cincinnati, it's not that he wants out of Cincinnati. He just wants to be in a winning situation, and he would love for that to be in Cincinnati. And there's only one group of people that can make that happen, and it's no longer just Joe Burrow. It's that front office. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Let's see. Doug Toby says, the bigger joke is Cleveland talking about giving Watson a chance to be a starter. Clueless. Listen, I don't think that's a joke. It's just a very unfortunate situation for Cleveland. I mean, he very well might be in position to compete for the starting job. That's not a good situation for Cleveland. I mean, it might. Who knows? You got a new head coach, new mindset, new offense. Who knows? But, yeah, Cleveland's quarterback situation isn't great. I'm with you. But at the same time, he might be the best of what they have. Depending, he was healthy in the middle of last season. He's going to have a full off season. He's re-energized playing in Todd Monken's offense. I don't know what to make of that. I'm also not here to fluff up the Browns, and I don't really want to get into the Browns, but I'm responding to Doug's comment here. I mean, there is a weird, wild shot that Deshaun Watson could have a bounce back year. He could have and I don't mean like top 5 quarterback like he was in Houston. I just mean he could have a bounce back year where he plays it at a decent position to complement what the defense does. You have Quinshon Judkins. They're going to go get wide receivers. They're going to fine-tune that offensive line. It could be interesting in Cleveland. They're not winning that division, but it could be interesting more than people want to give it credit for. So as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about the Bengals. I can't believe I'm doing it. I'm defending the Bengals. I am so sick of the narrative that Joe Burrow wants out of Cincinnati. He doesn't. If you just pay attention, he wants to stay and he wants to win. He wants to win in Cincinnati. That's ultimately what he wants. And that's what you guys want. And as a talk show host, not as a fan, because I'm not a Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals fan, but as a sports talk show host in Ohio, in Dayton especially, an hour from Cincinnati, less than that, I don't want him out of Cincinnati. I don't. And I don't think he wants out either. I think that's a silly way to position it. If you're Mike Greenberg and some of those guys. But yeah, all those guys, wild. Can't believe that that's a narrative that Joe Burrow wants out of Cincinnati. He doesn't. He just wants to win, damn it. And if he does ultimately say, I want out, do you blame him? Because it doesn't mean he doesn't care about the fans or the city. It's like, okay, I've given the city everything. 6 years. It's wild. Isn't it crazy that he's entering year 7? Year 7. 937-518-1410. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to tackle this tax season alone? Well, you don't have to. Belmont Business Consultants and Tax Services, with its 30-plus years of experience, is here to help you with business and individual taxes, bookkeeping, and payroll, either in person, drop-off, or through their secure client portal. Belmont Business Consultants in Eaton and Dayton is standing by. Call them in Eaton at 937-472-3300 or in Dayton at 937-252-2217 or on the web at belmontbctxs.com.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ethos.com/game. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Need an online notary? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. We can notarize your documents remotely at no charge to you. All you need is a smartphone or laptop. Visit courthouse2u.com for more info.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, save up to $500 on Tempur-Pedic, plus get a $300 instant gift. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Let's go! You're still grooving, still connecting, still loving, still turning up, still thriving. You still got it, but your immune system, it weakens as you age. That's where vaccines come in. They help train and strengthen your immune response to fight off respiratory illnesses like flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, or COVID-19. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Book in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
It's time to say goodnight to that check engine light with the free AutoZone Fix Finder service. It'll help troubleshoot the likely cause of your light for free. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
At Advent, we help sleep apnea sufferers avoid the CPAP machine by getting your nose and throat working with our unique Advent approach that you won't find elsewhere.
Hey, Cordell Transportation is now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers, excellent pay, benefits, and a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Apply right now online at CordellTransportation.com. Do it right now. Driven to succeed.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ethos.com/game. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Have you heard? Bath Creations has moved to their new location and showroom at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton. This gives you even more opportunity to see the incredible amenities and craftsmanship Bath Creation offers. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful, modern bathroom that is safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save an additional $500 off your purchase. Visit at 8741 North Kimmel Road in Clayton or online at mybathcreations.com and get a new bath today.
3:47 here in the Miami Valley. We welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call or text. You could text your opinion into the show, and I'll respond to it live here on the air. In fact, I haven't even checked the text, so I'm telling you to text. I don't even have it open. Well, let me pull it open, and I'll start responding to some of those coming up here around the corner. Okay, so the one thing too, and by the way, coming up later on tonight, Wright State basketball, 7:00, the tip-off. We'll have that for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Wright State sitting at the top of the Horizon League in first place. They're on ESPNU tonight as well, as they are on the road at Robert Morris. We'll have more on that. Paul Frischner, I've gotten a lot of people reach out to the show saying how much they enjoy Paul being on the show each week. The Rebound Rundown is the content that you want to look up. Search the Rebound Rundown wherever you get your podcasts, all social media. I mean, just wall-to-wall coverage of UC, Xavier, Dayton, Wright State, Ohio State, you name it. Even the number 23rd team in the country right now in the Miami Redhawks. How about that? They won again last night at Buffalo. Buffalo, they forced Miami into overtime a few weeks ago. In fact, it was that overtime win over Buffalo that propelled Miami into the top 25 for the first time since 1999. And to their credit, they've handled it well. I mean, this is what's interesting about Miami, because I want to hold it against them. You're a top 25 team that is playing a lot of teams 150 or lower in the net, or 100 or 120 or lower in the net, or KenPom, and you're needing 38, 39 minutes of the game clock to win these games. And who cares, right? They're just winning. I want to hold that against them, because if Ohio State needed 39, if Ohio State was 23-0 but needed 38 minutes to beat MAC teams, we would hold that against them. So I want to hold it against Miami, but I know that's not realistic. That's not how this works. I think it's a cool, fresh story. And I've said this before, like, I'm a Wright State guy. So if you follow mid-major basketball, and Dayton's always in that weird, like, they're a mid-major level, but they have high major resources, right? But like, so I don't put them in this category. But if you're Wright State, you know what I mean? If you're a fan of any team in the MAC, like, you got to look at what Miami's doing and say, God, I hope they could pull it off, because like, there's no blueprint for any of these mid-major teams to get at-large bids unless you put a bunch of blue bloods or a bunch of power fours in your non-con. And the chances of you winning enough of those games to even get on the radar to get an at-large bid is very, very slim. Now, they didn't have any teams in their non-con that were worth the damn. Now, here's where I got a little annoyed with Travis Steele and others when they were saying, we called everybody. No, you didn't. You didn't. You cherry-picked you called a lot of power four teams looking for bye games. the teams that you wanted, and by the way, it's smart scheduling, right? You wanted, like, for instance, Wright State put Cal on the schedule this year. We went to Cal in early November, and Wright State had a chance to beat Cal. Like, those are the types of teams. Those are those Power 4 teams that you can go on the road and pull off those upsets. We've seen Wright State do that over the years. They've beat Georgia Tech, right? They've beat NC State. They beat Louisville. They could have beat Cal. I mean, it was a less than a 10-point game with just a couple minutes to go. It was less than it was a 4-point game with just about 90 seconds to go. Free throws, Cal pulled away. But the bottom line is, like, a lot of these mid-major teams could schedule like that, where you get those Power 4 teams on the schedule, those teams that when you go look at their non-con, like, oh man, they hung in there. They only lost by 10 against Michigan State. They only, like, you know what I mean? Like, those things matter. Miami didn't do that. They didn't call Michigan State. They didn't call those bigger programs. All right. They called those middle. They kind of cherry-picked. They tried to cherry-pick their schedule. It just didn't work in their favor. They didn't get any of those games. So I was frustrated when I heard Coach Steele say, we called everybody. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't call Ohio State. You didn't want Ohio State on the schedule. You didn't want to go get beat by 25 plus against Ohio State, or let's just say 15 plus against Ohio State. So it worked out for them. But to their credit, you have to get to a certain point where you're like, okay, they haven't played a bunch of anybody's, but every night for 23 nights in the last 4 months, they have showed up and have been better than whoever they've rolled that ball out against. And that's not always going to be the case. Everyone's coming for them. They have the they're 23rd ranked team in the country. Everyone's coming for them. There is no off nights. They may be playing a bunch of nobodies, but those nobodies are playing the most inspired basketball that they're going to play all season because they have a chance to knock off an undefeated team or beat a top 25 team. I think they're a great story. Gary on Facebook says, let's talk about the number one Horizon League Wright State men's basketball versus Robert Morris and the possibility of a league championship. I bring that up pretty much almost every day. And we're going to talk about that more at the top of the hour when we talk college basketball, when we talk UD, Wright State, and others. But I was giving a shout out to my guy, Paul Frischner, for coming on to talk with us each week, college basketball, whether it's UC, Xavier, Dayton, Wright State, Miami, whoever. I appreciate him coming on and hanging out with us each week. So Ron Howard says, are you guys doing a Super Bowl show? Yes, Keith Byers and I will be at the Frickers in Miamisburg this Sunday. It's the final Sunday morning tailgate show of the season. Every season from week one all the way through Super Bowl, Sunday, we're at a different Frickers location, and I can't believe we're already wrapping it up. But Super Bowl 60 coming up this Sunday, and we'll be out at Frickers in Miamisburg, Keith Byers and I. If you want to come out from 11 to 1, come on out, hang out with us, and we'll talk all things Super Bowl 60 nonetheless. So, okay. 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can jump in the conversation. Or, of course, you can jump in on the chat on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page or the Justin Kinner Show YouTube channel. All right, hour number 2 of the show coming up next. Last night, Dayton snapped a 4-game losing streak. They get the win against St. Bonaventure, but again, the vibes at UD Arena were as down as they've been in a long, long time. The fan base is reeling after that 4-game losing streak. They did get a bounce-back win last night. A lot of people calling for the job of Anthony Grant, including, a group of students in the student section last night. They all kind of band together. They all wore shirts that spelled out Fire AG. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this, because according to reports, according to people that were there, arena staff approached them and threatened to kick them out if they didn't take those shirts off. They could not wear those shirts. They could not wear the shirts that said Fire AG. There was no cuss words. They didn't even technically call them out by name. There was nothing inappropriate about them. I have a huge problem with that. I think that is an absolute soft move by UD. I think it's soft. Agree or disagree? We'll discuss more when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, hour number 2, coming up next.
The ONN Daily Podcast. Get a recap of all the day's news from across the state.
ONN affiliate WBNS TV in Columbus has more.
Haley Kirby reporting in downtown Toledo.
From the State House, Kevin Landers.
ONN Canton. ONN affiliate WKYC TV in Cleveland explains.
In Marietta, Brett Wharf, ONN News.
Emma Henderson in Genoa.
The ONN Daily Podcast. Listen at ONNradio.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts from the Ohio News Network.
Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle is more than a tax preparer. We're your friend. Stop and see Michael Maxwell and Joe Tannis at their new office at 100 South Church Street in New Carlisle. Whether you have personal or business taxes, Michael and Joe are here to take care of all the details for you, down to the last penny. Allow our experience to ease the burden of doing it yourself. Make an appointment at 937-543-5770 or online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where our target is your satisfaction.
You can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from that awful joint pain. Don't go another year compromising because of that pain in your knees or shoulder. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain treatment has arrived, and QC has tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or an injury. This is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again. Get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. If this is the year you decide to fight back against that pain, take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. Get a free consultation on your calendar today. Call 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Drivers who switch their home and auto with Progressive could save money and time. Other things try to do this, but they really don't. Like the touchscreen at fast food places. It's not like you save time because it takes you longer to use a touchscreen than, I don't know, someone who works there. And another thing, you'd think it would save money because they're not paying a cashier, right? But no, same price. Also, why is there an option to tip? Who am I tipping? Exactly. Anyway, even if you can't save money and time with some things, you could with a Progressive home and auto bundle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states or situations.
Finding excuses to not do your taxes? Unsure where to start? Sounds like you may be suffering from FOMO, the fear of messing up. The cure? Filing your federal and state taxes for free using TurboTax on Credit Karma. All you have to do is start and finish filing on your own in the Credit Karma app by February 28th. Just keep in mind, this offer is available only if you didn't file with TurboTax last year. It's time to break free from your fear of messing up. Start filing for free today in the Credit Karma app.
Hi, this is Michael, your service manager at Dave Arbogast Buick GMC in Troy, Ohio. I am inviting you to give us an opportunity to earn your business. We have expanded our hours to better meet your needs. We are now open until 6 p.m. during the week and 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Saturdays. We service all makes and models. We offer convenient shuttle service as well as pickup and delivery. Please visit us on the web at arbogastbuickgmc.com or in person. Exit 69 on I-75. Look for the giant American flag. I hope to see you soon.
Talk about stepping up! Bang! Bang! It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
The future depends on teachers who are reinventing the classroom and starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Dayton's radio home for Buckeyes football. 1410 WING. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Our forecast, mostly cloudy, 5 above tonight, mostly cloudy, 24 tomorrow. Friday, snow is likely in 36. I'm Rick Schremp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
1410 Wing AM, Dayton's ESPN Radio, powered by...
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-288-9944. That's 800-288-9944. Once again, that's 800-288-9944.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Hour number 2. 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can call or text into the show. Keep in mind, so Wright State returns, again, 1410 ESPN Radio, Dayton's radio home for Wright State basketball. Wright State does return home coming up this Saturday night. It'll be their homecoming game, and we'll have that for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. But if you want to go, we have a chance for you to get tickets for that night, win tickets. All you have to do is text Raiders to 937-518-1410. Wright State welcomes in Purdue-Fort Wayne on Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the Nutter Center. Text Raiders to 937-518-1410. First come, first serve for the tickets that have been allotted to us. We'll give those out while supplies last. So text Raiders 937-518-1410. That's how you can get some tickets for Saturday night's homecoming game. Wright State in first place. They're also in action tonight. They're on the road at Robert Morris. They're first place in the Horizon League. And we're going to talk more about Wright State in a moment. I have some audio from the Paul Frischner conversation from yesterday, but I do want to open up talking some college basketball. We'll get back into the Wright State conversation here in just a moment. So last night, we know things have been a little bumpy when it comes to Dayton Flyers basketball this season. All right. Now Dayton's 15-8. All right. They're with less than 10 games remaining on the season. There's a good chance that this is still going to be a 20-win season. If a bad season in Dayton is still a 19 to 20-win season, that's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world when you listen to what they tell you that they believe their expectations are. And when you consistently fall below that, I don't care when you get the homers out there that try to sugarcoat everything with, look at the 20-win seasons, look at all the guys in the league. Fans don't really care about the NBA stuff. I mean, you think back to and I've said this before, you think back to the Archie Miller era. The Archie Miller era, I mean, you had Charles Cook that kind of dabbled in some, NBA G League stuff. You had Scucci who dabbled in some NBA G League stuff. But overall, Archie Miller, I don't think anybody cares that Archie Miller never produced a true real pro. I will take Archie Miller with no NBA talent and an Elite Eight run over Anthony Grant with all his NBA talent and no NCAA tournament runs. That's how fans view this. I've always said this. That's how Kentucky tried to hide Calipari for the longest time. And that's how I've always viewed Dayton as a poor man's Kentucky. And you could sit there and say that that's me taking a shot. I'm not. But Kentucky, the reason Kentucky fans grew tired with John Calipari, and John Calipari did what Dayton fans are trying to do with their program. John Calipari, his only flex towards the tail end of his run in Lexington was, look at all the guys I put in the league. Kentucky was supposed to be about competing for national championships, NCAA tournament runs, Sweet 16s, Elite Eights, Final Fours, national championships. That's why John Calipari was supposed to be at Kentucky, not, to be a funnel system feeder system to the NBA. Although that's a great thing, to me, the more John Calipari bragged about all the NBA talent in Lexington, the more I thought it was an actually even worse blemish on his record, because you're not making the point you think you are. You're not making the flex that you think you are. When John Calipari was at Kentucky and used to brag about all the talent that he puts in the league, I'm like, I know that he had a national championship, but that was well over a decade ago. You got to go back to Anthony Davis, who, I mean, a decade and 45 injuries later, we're so far removed from that. Kentucky fans grew tired. Like, I always remember people saying, Kentucky, be careful what you ask for. You're getting what you ask for. You pushed John Calipari out, and now look. To me, it was time to move on from John Calipari because the act got stale. John Calipari was more obsessed with trying to go get the best high school talent to put into the league versus going to get the best talent to compete for national championships, because that's ultimately what this is. Now, Dayton's not trying to compete for national championships. I mean, they would love it, but they're trying to compete for NCAA tournament appearances, A10 championships. And right now, you're not getting any of that. So when people say, well, Justin, you're just being negative, look at all the 20-win seasons, look at all the talent that they're putting in the league. I'm like, just like I was critical of Kentucky during the Calipari era, that's how I'm looking at this. You're not making the flex that you think you are. When you flex about all the NBA talent, I'm like, well, then how come you can't win with it? At one point, you had a Deron Holmes and a Tumani Kamara and a Kobe Brea. You had 3 NBA guys on one roster, and they couldn't win the league and they couldn't make the NCAA tournament. That's not the flex that you think it is. I can't believe Dayton had those 3 NBA players on it. I can, because I remember being in shock that they couldn't do a damn thing with it. That's a problem. That's not the flex that you think it is. It's great on NBA draft night. It's great PR for the university, but it's not the flex that you think it is when you're continuously bragging about, look at all this talent that we couldn't do a damn thing with. That's why Calipari's act got stale in Lexington. That's why they pushed Calipari out. Is because everyone stopped caring about the dog and pony show of, well, look at all the guys in the league. That's super. That's great. We want to win in March. And instead, they're getting embarrassed by Oakland out of the Horizon League. Now, I like Golke and I like Townsend and I like Greg Campy. I love the Oakland program, but you shouldn't be that shouldn't happen if you're Kentucky with all that NBA talent. So I don't care about the 20-win seasons. I don't care about the NBA talent, because overall, over a 9-year run of Anthony Grant and Dayton, it's just one of those, what do you really have to show for it? At the beginning, when you get in and, 3-4 years into your run as UD head coach and your national coach of the year, and you have Obi Toppin and you would have been a 1 seed, that's phenomenal. But as time goes on, you start to look at it and it's like, well, that's clearly an outlier. Because who Dayton has been the other 8 years outside of 2020, it's exactly who Alabama was when Anthony Grant was there, and it's exactly who VCU was when Anthony Grant was there. 19 to 21, 22 wins, not winning in the conference, making, an NCAA tournament or 2 here and there, but never anything consistently. That's who he is. You're a good coach. You're going to win games, but you're ultimately not going to accomplish what you are trying to accomplish with him leading the way. It's been 9 years. We've seen it. And they snapped that 4-game losing streak last night, but my goodness, 72-70, the final. Had a large double-digit lead and it, tied late in the game again against the St. Bonaventure team that's 2-8 in A10 play. They got the win. That's the most important thing. Happy for the guys that they got that win, because it feels dirty now, even with the win. I can't imagine how it would have felt with the loss last night. But to their credit, they got the win. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. They got the win. 72-70, the final. The Dayton Flyers snapped that, okay? Here's what happened last night that I had a problem with, okay? Here's what happened last night that I had a problem with. There's a lot of Flyer fans. Here's how I know things are bad in Flyer land. Because I'm saying a lot of things that normally get me in trouble with you people. And the fact that I have so many people on social media that share my content and that agree with my opinions right now, that's how I know things are bad. When a lot of the majority of Flyer faithful are agreeing with all yours truly over here. I've been waving this flag for years now that Anthony Grant is the problem. And now finally people are catching up. Last night, okay, as Anthony Grant, a lot of national publications are out there too that are putting his name on the hot seat list. Last night, okay, there were students in the student section that showed up, and they all had shirts on. Each shirt had a letter on it. And when you put them all and you spread everybody out, it spelled Fire AG. For those who are, watching on the show right there, there's a picture of it right there. You could zoom in. You could see those in the white shirts right there, Fire AG. A lot was made of that. According to those who were in the arena and at the game, that University of Dayton arena officials approached them and demanded that they have to either leave the arena or take those shirts off. And I think that is some soft ass behavior from the University of Dayton, in my opinion. I think that is wrong. And I don't do the whole free speech approach. You're impeding on my rights. I should be able to, I don't do that. But at the same time, like, what are these guys? What does this hurt? Because to me, I think you should be paying more close attention to the message that they're trying to send out than trying to silence it. And I think if you are Neil Sullivan, if you are the athletics director, the athletics department as a whole, if you are any individual that played a role in trying to kick them out, shame on you. I think that's a horrible look for you. All they care about is their image. And to me, I had someone that responded with "good for the security staff," #winning. And I'm like, well, winning, if they were winning the way they were supposed to, the staff never would have had to ask these guys to take those shirts off. They didn't actually spell out his name. They didn't have any derogatory comments or bad words written across the shirts. Like, there was nothing wrong with these shirts. If these students who spend a couple $100s on an education there, please, who spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and let's be clear, their parents spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on their education. The bottom line is lots of money is being spent there that I think you control freaks, I think they should be able to wear a shirt that has an F, an I, an R, or an E, or an A, or a G, or an exclamation point on it. I think that they've earned that right. There was no middle finger. There was no F. There was no U. There was no bad words written on those whatsoever. I think that is loser behavior. About a month ago, okay, things are not going well in Cincinnati. Wes Miller is about to be canned probably at the end of this at the end of this season. They were organizing a game where everyone was going to show up wearing paper bags over their heads because they were so disgusted with what they were witnessing. Now, to UC fans' credit, it didn't really take off, but there were quite a few fans who showed up to that UC game with bags over their heads. They weren't asked to take those bags off. They weren't asked to leave the arena, because that's the difference when people say Dayton's not a mid-major. That's the difference between being mid-major and being the real deal that UC is. Now, UC is not good, but UC, they're realistic enough to understand that, yeah, this is embarrassing. This sucks that we have put our fans in a position where they feel like they need to put bags over their head. But maybe we should be paying attention to the fact that we're ignoring them screaming to change the product. And that's going to happen at the end of this year. All right. Unless, UC wins the Big 12, which they won't. It's the best conference in college basketball. They're not making the tournament. I think they went to the Vegas one last year, the Royal, whatever the hell that tournament was over in Vegas. They're not making the NCAA tournament. A lot of money has been spent on that roster. And if UC can deal with fans putting paper bags over their head, I'm pretty sure that students in the student section at UD games, which, by the way, that's the most open seats I've seen at a game in quite some time, at a UD game. I don't know, man. I'm just saying. Like, I think that was wrong. Flyer fans, agree or disagree, regardless of whether you think AG should be kept or let go, was it wrong of Dayton to force those students to have to change their shirts? There was nothing derogatory written. There was no pictures. It's not like they even had his picture. If they want Anthony Grant fired, like I do and the majority of Flyer fans do, they have the right to voice they're spending a lot of money on those tickets. I just think that that's absolutely incredibly soft. And just when Dayton tries to convince you that we should be in the Big East, that we should be in a Power 4 conference, they just remind you how mid-major they are. That was wrong last night. And anyone who works in that athletics department should be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves, because those students, I guarantee you, by the way, I would not have talked about those shirts. I would not have talked about it today. I would not have talked about those shirts today if they just left it alone. Nobody would have talked about it. It was all over social media last night because UD had to go and demand that they take it off. That is soft loser behavior. I'm sorry. That's wrong. That's wrong. It is what it is. Adam Selner says, does UD admin think that they can't do better than Anthony Grant? Not sure why he gets the leash that he does if fans say he's underachieved. Guys, like, it's when we say Anthony Grant's underachieved, I don't even think that that's an opinion. That is a fact. He's been here 9 years, 1 NCAA tournament appearance, 2 if you count 20 that didn't happen anyway, so 1.5. It's not. I don't think when I say that he is underachieved, I don't think I'm sharing an opinion. I think that is a fact. They have underachieved, putting all those guys in the NBA, nothing to show for it. They've mightily underachieved. I'm just not impressed at all as far as that goes. Now, to your question, Adam, when you say does UD admin think that they can't do better than AG? Here's the problem. Let's rewind back to when Archie Miller ultimately left UD to take the Indiana job. That was a real kick to the ego of the university, mainly because they feel like they should be a destination school, because they feel like we have an NBA arena, we have all of these resources, we have a phenomenal fan base. I mean, UD's fan base is unreal. We all know that. So their egos believe, Neil Sullivan's ego believes, all of them believe that we are a destination school, which I think is ludicrous, because I don't think that there's a human being out there that grows up with the dream of, man, I'm dreaming of one day being the head coach at Dayton. It's a great place to coach, but that's not a destination school. But UD, because of their ego and their pride, they believe that they are. So because of that, what they didn't want was some young up-and-coming coach like a Travis Steele right now. Now, Travis Steele, to be fair, he's a little bit of a caveat here because he's been at Xavier. He's hopped around a bit, but I've talked to multiple people at Xavier that said they didn't really want to move on from Travis Steele, but when the opportunity came about to get, to get Sean Miller back, they had to jump on that. But the point is Dayton doesn't want some young up-and-coming coach that kills it in the Horizon League or something and then goes to UD, makes a tournament or two, and then leapfrogs to the Power Four. They don't want that. They want a coach that's going to be here for the long term because they feel like it's a shot to their ego. Anytime a coach comes here, has a little success, and wants to bounce. And until Dayton gets over themselves and realizes that it's not a shot at Dayton, no one wants to climb the ranks to be an A-10 head coach their entire career. Nobody. Nobody. So I don't understand that. So when you ask that, Adam, about do they feel like they can't get anybody better? No, they could definitely get somebody better. The reason I don't think Anthony Grant's going anywhere after this year, no matter how loud it gets, is because Anthony Grant wants to be here. That's why Dayton is going to keep Anthony Grant, because of their ego. Their ego and pride is going to be their downfall. And to be honest, I think it has been their downfall. Archie Miller was an up-and-coming coach that a lot of people questioned his hire originally when it happened. I mean, he has no personality. He has no charisma. But you know what that dude had? He was a pit bull, and he won games at UD. And he won at the time of year that mattered more than anything. Archie Miller is the type of and by the way, do not go back to Archie Miller. That's not what I'm saying. They need to go back to that route, though, of that up-and-coming coach. Give that young, hungry, up-and-coming coach with all those resources, with everything that Dayton has to offer. And if he's around for 5 or 6 years, great. Have a kick-ass 5 or 6 year run and then start it all over again with somebody else. With NIL and everything like that, there's never been an easier time to be able to handle a coaching transition. People kept making excuses for AG at the beginning, saying that Archie left the cupboard bare. Okay. And I understood that. That led to the couple-year transition at the beginning because college basketball was different at the time that AG took over. Not anymore. You go with the resources UD has, you get the right coach, the young up-and-coming coach to come in. The fact that Miami of Ohio is doing this in this state and Dayton is not, is just wild. And I don't expect Dayton, by the way, to be 22, 23-0 because to their credit, they really play good teams in November, December. And that's the other frustrating thing. They beat the Florida States. They beat the Marquettes. You know what I mean? beat UConn last year, who finished number 6 in the country. They were defending national champions. Like, they've beat Kansas before. Like, throughout the Anthony Grant era, they have always been able to compete and beat the big boys. But it's never, oh man, we had a challenging non-conference schedule, and ultimately that's why we couldn't get in. They end up struggling to get in because they have these little losing streaks like they just came off of, where you lose to LaSalle and you lose to a Rhode Island team coached by Archie, by the way. That's why. That's why they've missed the tournament. And it's a consistent trend throughout the history of the AG era. I don't want to hear about 2020 anymore. I don't want to hear it. I made this comparison last week when I brought this up. I said, it reminds me of Cincinnati Bengals. When Bengals fans get so upset when the front office and Zach Taylor say, why do you believe that you're going to why do you believe that bringing everybody back every single year is going to get it done? And what do they say? Well, because remember that time 3-4 years ago when, I guess 5 years ago, remember that time 4 or 5 years ago when we made it to a Super Bowl? Yeah, we did that before. We know we could do it again. Or maybe it's just an outlier season, Mr. Taylor. Maybe, just maybe, you won't be the guy to get them back there. And maybe, just maybe, Mr. Grant, you won't ever get them back to a number 1 seed. And I don't even think, to be fair, I don't even think you fans care about the 1 seed. You just want to get back to the NCAA tournament. I don't even think you care if you're a 11 seed playing in the first 4. You just want to play in March. And I get it. I'm sorry for the long rant here, but that's a good question. For those who are listening, Adam Seldner asked, does University of Dayton admin think that they can't do better than AG? No, they know they could do better than Anthony Grant. But their egos, it's an identity crisis. They believe that they are something that they are not. They believe that they are a destination school, and that is not it. I've gotten into so many arguments with Dayton fans over the years who have said that Dayton is not a stepping stone program. Yes, they are. And I don't even want to call them that. Let's not even call it that, because you're trying to position it as if you're a victim here. You're not. That's just the nature of college athletics. No one grows up dreaming to be the head coach of an A-10 school. Really, no one grows, you grow up. There's a lot of destination schools out there. Dayton's just not one of them, guys. It's just not. But that's a hell of a job. Who cares? Why do you have to be married to the head coach long-term? Why is that such a necessary thing? Because of the ego and the pride of the administration and the athletics department. Their pride has gotten in the way. Anthony Grant, to me, and by the way, I do feel like this is going into Mike Tomlin's situation. It's the Dayton Flyers remind me, they're like the college basketball version of the Steelers. They win every year, but they're just good enough to make you believe, but have too many deficiencies to make you buy in. You believe in the Steelers, but you don't buy the Steelers. You believe in Dayton, but you don't buy Dayton. And I think Anthony Grant at the end of the year is either going to retire or he will be the head coach next year, because the athletics department is perfectly content with what you're seeing. Instead of letting those students keep those shirts on last night that said fire AG, they wanted that out of there because that makes the university look bad. No, what makes the university looks bad is when you lose to LaSalle. Is when you lose 4 straight games against teams at the bottom half of the conference. Or I should say 3 of the 4 teams are at the bottom of the conference. And then the one good team you faced, you got blitzed by freaking 30. Anyways, I'm done. But text in 937-518-1410. Did you have a problem with Dayton staff making those students take off those shirts last night? I have a huge problem with it. I do. Not a fan. Not a fan. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
Mattress Firm's President's Day sale is here. Score unbeatable deals and get matched with the perfect bed. They make sleep easy.
The NCAA First Four is back at the epicenter of college hoops. The excitement tips off Selection Sunday, March 15th, with 2 family-friendly events. Lace up for the Big Hoopla 4-miler and bring the family to the free STEM Challenge. Both at Wright State University. It all leads to the NCAA First Four at UD Arena, March 17th and 18th. The First Four, Dayton, and the Big Hoopla. Details at DaytonHoopla.com.
February is Children's Dental Health Month,
So make sure you make an appointment for your child to visit an Ohio Dental Association member dentist. ODA member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care, are bound by the highest ethical standards, and have access to superior ongoing education and training. On your next visit, ask if your child's dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association and American Dental Association, so you know you're being treated by the best. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit oda.org.
The future depends on teachers who are reinventing the classroom and starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Big tax changes this year could mean a bigger refund, and Jackson Hewitt knows how to get you your biggest. You'll get $100 just to try us. That won't make you filthy rich, but definitely gas plus groceries rich. And since we know all the new tax codes, you could get thousands back, which would make you low-key loaded. Or at least wealthy adjacent? Go with our trusted pros and get $100 to switch. Rest easy. Jackson Hewitt's got your taxes. Guaranteed. Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
This President's Day, Pure Talk is honoring Jackson and Lincoln by offering unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Meanwhile, Big Wireless is honoring Benjamin Franklin by charging families hundreds of dollars for the same 5G service. What's up with that? Ben Franklin wasn't even a president. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be in business with an American wireless company that supports our vets in a big way and keeps all their customer service in this country. That's important. And you'll be on the same towers the big carriers use, so you'll get the same 5G service without the inflated price. So hang on to your Benjamins and switch to Pure Talk for a Jackson and a Lincoln. No contract, no hidden fees. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and you'll get 50% off your first month when you switch. That's pound 250, Mike Rowe, for an American wireless company that is truly unprecedented. Pure Talk.
When you think of the most exciting team in Dayton, it's okay if you don't think of the doctors and therapists at Premier Health. We don't have jerseys or trading cards. We don't get primetime coverage. We don't sell out arenas. Have good drip or autograph sessions. We're just happy to be your team's favorite team.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
4:28 here in the Miami Valley. We welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show. Coming up later on tonight, 7 o'clock, the tip-off. Wright State on the road at Robert Morris. Wright State first place in the Horizon League. Wright State at Robert Morris is on ESPNU tonight. You can also catch it right here on 1410 ESPN Radio and our sister station, 101.5 The Fridge. A lot of college basketball talk today. Dayton, amongst the negative conversation, they did get the win last night. And that's the most important thing, because I did think that they were about to let that slip through their fingers. As bad as the vibes are in Dayton right now, I can't imagine how much worse it would have been had they faltered last night. And it wasn't a great performance. I mean, 72-70 the final against St. Bonaventure, who's 2-8. And, I heard, Anthony Grant in the postgame talk about this. Like, they've been bitten by the injury bug. St. Bonaventure is actually not a bad team, but they are a bad team right now because all their guys are out. And Dayton, still struggled with that. So it doesn't matter. I don't care. They got the win. And you look at some of the games coming up, and like, here's the stretch that's coming up for Dayton. Okay. They're at VCU. All right. They're at VCU on Friday night, and that's a game that's on ESPN2. And then they have a week off after that VCU game. I mean, they're not going to play again until the 15th. Then they're going to be against Davidson. Davidson really looked solid last night against St. Louis. I thought St. Louis last night was going to stub their toe, to their credit. They're top 25 team in the country. They were able to bounce back and get the win and play much better in the second half. But Dayton's at VCU on the 6th, at home against Davidson on the 15th. And then here's the stretch of games that I think a lot of Flyer fans are going to be kicking themselves over, because it's frustrating. Thought that if Dayton was able to hang around a bit, that they would have had plenty of quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities to bounce back and get into the at-large conversation. Because you have VCU on the 6th, and you also close out the regular season on March 6th, at UD Arena against VCU. Also, you get a chance to play at St. Louis again. St. Louis is going to be at UD Arena on February 24th. That is going to be big because you have a top 25 team coming to UD Arena, but it's frustrating because that game's not going to mean a whole heck of a lot. Here's what I will say to put the positive spin on Dayton, okay? If Dayton gets hot and you knock off VCU twice and you're able to get a win over St. Louis and George Mason, who's right there at the top of the A-10 as well, at 8-1 in conference play, 20-2 overall, you get hot against, and let's say, because you have 2 against VCU, all right. You have, 1 at home coming up. That's their next game on the 6th. And that's at VCU on the 6th. All right. And then you close out the regular season at home against VCU. You're at George Mason on the 18th. They're 20-2 on the season. They're right there at the top of the A-10. And then, of course, St. Louis on the 24th. Those are 4 humongous games. You win 2 of those 4. I need to say 3. I'm going to say you need to win 3 of those 4 big games right there for me to feel like this team has any kind of remote shot to go on a run in the A-10 tournament, because that's the only way they're going to go dancing at this point. It's the only way that they're going to go dancing at this point. Paul Frischner with the rebound rundown, he was on with us yesterday. He said this is the number one problem when it comes to the Dayton Flyers at this point, as we're just trying to figure out who they are.
It just felt like they were doing enough to win games, which is what you need to do in college basketball, but they weren't really showing out. And that's where I come back to, what is this team right now, right? Like, you're still trying to find your identity, and we're sitting here on February 3rd. It doesn't feel like when you watch a Dayton game, right? When I'm sitting there watching Dayton night in and night out, and I think to myself, okay, at least I know I can get this, or at least I know I can get this, right? Like, Cincinnati has struggled this year immensely, but I know they're always going to be a pretty good defensive team. They're just going to struggle to score, but their identity is built around their defense. When you watch Dayton, I'm just not really sure night in and night out what they are going to consistently do well. And when it's the first week of February, you can't be saying that.
He's right. If you're saying that in January, where you're like at the beginning of January, where you just don't know yet, because a lot of times you come out of non-con where you're playing a lot of significantly bigger schools, and how do you stack up against your conference? It takes a bit to figure it out. But yesterday we had him on. It was the 3rd. On February 3rd, if you're asking who is this team, that's not a good thing. And I think that's the number one issue with, forget Anthony Grant's 9-year tenure. I'm talking about this team right now. Whether they're healthy or not healthy, or guys coming back from injury after missing, weeks off, it doesn't matter. If you are questioning who are you at this point, that's a problem. But here's the other thing too. If Dayton had an at-large opportunity, the amount of pressure that adds to them, I think, is a concern, would be a concern. Here's why I think Dayton being out of the at-large conversation might be a good thing. Because now you look at the games coming up, all right, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 games. At the very least, you have 10 games left, assuming you could win 1 or 2 games in the A-10, right? The good thing is when you play VCU, you're not facing VCU coming up on Friday night to remain in the NCAA tournament conversation. When you have St. Louis come back to UD Arena on the 24th, you're not trying to beat them to get back into the at-large conversation. What you are trying to do, what Anthony Grant and his staff are trying to do at this point is, can we go out there and we beat VCU? We get that belief that, we can beat a top team in this league. And then, damn it, you go on the road and you win at George Mason, because 2 of the next 3 are on the road. 2 of the next 3 are against 2 teams who are ahead of Dayton in these A-10 standings right now, 6-4 in conference play. VCU's 8-2, George Mason's 8-1 in conference play. 2 of your next 3 are on the road against those 2 teams. But my God, you get a win against one of those teams. Now the sense like, we can beat a top team in this league. And then you beat St. Louis, or you compete with St. Louis. Like, for right now, Anthony Grant, the only job that he has for the next final 8 games is get this team right mentally. Can you find an identity with what's left and over the next 8 games to take some momentum into the A-10 tournament and go on some kind of miraculous run? Because right now I say they have a 0% chance at winning the A-10 tournament based on what we've seen. But they could change my mind because of the quality of teams that they have left on their schedule. 2 with VCU, on the road at George Mason, at home against St. Louis. They will be at George Washington. That's a win. They're 13-9, 4-5, but they could beat, George Washington. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. As far as I'm concerned, Dayton has an opportunity. They have an opportunity not to get in that large bid, but I think the fact that they're out of the at-large conversation actually might help them. We'll see. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Doug Toby weighs in on Miami. He's talking about the Ken Pom conversation. He said Ken Pom has UD around 88 or 89. And or he's, and Miami's right there as well. That tells you how bad the MAC and Miami's schedule is. I still give them kudos for being undefeated. That's the other thing, too, that Dayton has kind of conditioned their fans to do, like to say how bad the MAC is. Like, I'm not picking on you, but I have a problem when people say that the MAC is a bad college basketball conference. Is it the ACC or the Big 12? No. But let's not beat up on the MAC. And maybe that's, I'm a mid-major guy, mid-major fan, so maybe I'm getting defensive of these, but do you watch MAC basketball? So how can you speak on MAC basketball? Like, that's the problem I have with it. Like, to say that shows you how bad the MAC is. The MAC, Kent State's really, really good. All right. Obviously, Miami of Ohio, they're not just the top team in the MAC. They're one of the top teams in the country. Like, the MAC is not bad at all. In fact, the A10 and the MAC both only have one top 25 team in the mix. So, like, I don't know what you mean by that as far as that's concerned. But now, to your point, I understand what you're saying. When you look at the fact that, okay, Dayton is coming in at 90, Miami of Ohio is coming in at 89. Miami of Ohio, they're sitting at 89. Like, the MAC is not a conference that is going to prop you up to move up in Ken Pom or move up in the net. You do a lot of that damage if you are a Miami of Ohio in November, December. Miami and Ohio, they've been criticized already heavily for the lack of work that they put in November, December, outside of winning in November and December, because they didn't beat anybody. If they were 23-0, people are making a lot about the 23-0 record that they should be higher in Ken Pom. No, Ken Pom accounts for who you play. Margin for victory also plays a huge role in that. I just heard Doug Gottlieb, who's over at Green Bay. He was saying that Ken Pom is, he said S-H-I-T. He spelled it out. Not in a T-shirt. We know how UD Arena gets upset about spelling anything out on T-shirts, but he said Ken Pom is S-H-I-T. Okay, so he said that, and he said that Ken Pom doesn't account for a lot of factors that play a role in these rankings. For instance, if you are without 3 of your 5 starters, and you get a win only by 1 or you lose by 30, it doesn't matter. They don't put in, there's no weighted factor in there. There's nothing to weight that, for those circumstances. So, like, some of that doesn't matter. But Ken Pom, it is all about, a lot of it's the point differential. That plays a huge role in that. And if you look at Miami of Ohio, they're 23-0, but they have had to grind out so many of these wins. They've had to grind out so many wins throughout this 23-game win streak throughout this season. I mean, they just beat Buffalo last night. They needed overtime at home to beat Buffalo the last time those two teams played, which is why I was annoyed when Travis Steele was doing the whole, people keep bringing up our schedule. I said, that's a realistic criticism, because if there was any other fringe top 25 team that needed overtime to beat Buffalo at home, we wouldn't be sitting there saying they deserve to be in the top 25. We'd be questioning what top 25 team needs overtime to beat Buffalo at home. But that's been the problem. So last night, again, Miami of Ohio, when it comes to the Ken Pom, 73-71, a 2-point win. They struggled there. They won by 2 against UMass. They won by, again, they put up 107 points against Kent State, but you won by 6, 2 possessions there. 105-102. That was the 1 possession win against Buffalo. So, yeah, they've struggled, and ever since that targets got put on their back, they've had to fight and grind for every one of those wins nonetheless. But, yeah, Ken Pom's not going to be – Miami's not going to get any favors from Ken Pom, because, there's a lot of metrics that play a role in that, and they haven't played anybody worth the damn to be able to be given that respect. And as far as the net rankings are concerned, they're also not going to be given a lot of love there, because you're just not playing anybody in the quad 1 or quad 2 realm. So that's the concern right there. I'm fascinated, though. They keep moving up. They keep moving up the top 25 rankings. And it's like, man, are you going to keep inching them up each week? They made the top 25 one week. They moved up a week later at 24. Now they're sitting at 23. When the rankings come out next Monday, are we going to be talking about them sitting at 22? Are we just going to keep doing this? I mean, they could find themselves in number 18 or 17, but if they keep doing that, there's a very good chance they could run the table here. Very good chance, at least the regular season. I want to know, What happens if you finish undefeated in the regular season and lose in the second game of the MAC tournament? Does that mean your at-large hopes are just shattered? That's kind of wild. That's what I'm fascinated by Miami. I want to see how they're treated come Selection Sunday. I kind of want to see chaos. Like, I kind of want to see, like, if they lose one game in the regular season and then lose a second game in the MAC tournament, but they're sitting at 29 to 30 wins, are they going to be left out after being in the top 25 for almost a month? I mean, Miami's very interesting. If I'm Wright State, if I'm other mid-major programs around the country, I'm keeping a close eye on Miami, on the Red Hawks, as far as that goes. I mentioned Wright State. They're in action tonight on the road at Robert Morris, 7 o'clock to tip off. We'll have that for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. They're also on ESPNU. Paul Frischner with the rebound rundown. We talked about Wright State sitting atop the Horizon League in first place, year 2 under Clint Sargent, and also being led by a true freshman point guard who's their leading scorer and one of the best freshman guards in the country.
Yeah, look, the offense is scoring now. I mean, they score 88 against Northern Kentucky in a rivalry win. They score 83 against Green Bay. Defense is continuing to hold up like we've talked about here over the last few weeks. They're 10-2 in the Horizon League. They're getting production from all over the floor. And to me, it's all about the 3 days in March in the Horizon League, right? It's all about playing as well as you can in Indianapolis. But what a season it's been for Wright State so far. I mean, to come into league play when league play really started, and to be 7-7 on December 29th after a win against Oakland. But even before that, you're 6-7. And now here you are at 15-8. And they're playing a fun brand of basketball, right? They're starting to score more. They're defending at a high level. They're winning games that matter. You've talked extensively about Michael Cooper. There are fun pieces to this team, and they're an exciting group to watch, Justin.
Again, that was Paul Frischner, rebound rundown. Make sure you follow the rebound rundown. Wright State in action tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPNU and on 1410 ESPN Radio, 101.5 The Fridge. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. We'll close out the show when we come back. 4:42 here in the Miami Valley. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
It's time to take care of you. Who better to help you do that than the top voices in well-being on Audible? Sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com/wellbeing.
Sometimes weather and body pain can slow you down, but don't let the pain stop you. With just one pill, Aleve provides up to 12 hours of pain relief, so you can keep moving. Use as directed.
When you think of the most exciting team in Dayton, it's okay if you don't think of the doctors and therapists at Premier Health. We don't have jerseys or trading cards. We don't get primetime coverage. We don't sell out arenas, have good drip, or autograph sessions. We're just happy to be your team's favorite team.
Hey, y'all. It's the Rocket Roger Clemens here. Spent a lot of time pitching heat. Years later, the pain in my joints remind me of those days, but I'm not looking to sit still, and I definitely am not interested in going under the knife. That's why I chose QC Kinetics.
Not just for elite retired athletes. QC Kinetics gives everyday folks joint pain relief using regenerative treatments that work with your body to help repair joint damage.
No surgery, no long recovery, whether it's your knees, hips, shoulders, or back. My friends at QC Kinetics will help you get moving again so you can get back to doing the things you love.
QC Kinetics medical professionals will look at your x-rays or MRI to determine if you're a good candidate.
I trusted QC Kinetics to help me feel like myself again, and I'm proud to recommend them to you.
Call QC Kinetics today and schedule your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring and has increased the hourly wage of $22.48. That's right. KTH is looking for elite production associates, including press operators, overhead crane operators, and forklift operators. Apply today. KTH offers excellent benefits, including medical, dental, and 401k. KTH is a short drive from Bellefonte, Troy, Piqua, and Urbana. Upgrade your career and be valued by a company that really cares about you. Apply now at kth.net, an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, it's Flo here to say drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds.
Nice. With my new savings, I'll get some hiking gear. It'll be great for my outdoor era.
I don't know if it counts as an era if you just buy stuff.
I got a cute hiking backpack. It's an outdoor era.
Well, you only bought one thing. I don't think it's an era.
Well, I think we're in a agree to disagree era.
Yeah, sure, you're probably right. Anyway, with the money you could save by switching to Progressive, you can afford to switch to other things in life. It's
my savings era.
Also, everything you do is not an era.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Winter is in full swing, and Aleve is here to keep you moving. When the cold weather sets in, everyday aches and pains can linger, but Aleve's got your back. With up to 12 hours of body pain relief per dose, Aleve keeps you going with long-lasting body pain relief to get you through whatever the season brings. Chilly days or cozy nights, Aleve gives you that long-lasting body pain relief you can count on this winter. Try Aleve. Use as directed for minor aches and pains.
It's tax time, y'all. If you want to file free, this next one's for you.
Now taxes is so free. Tax-free edition only, roughly 37% of filings qualify. Simple form to 40 returns only. This is tax.
Love that jam. Up next, commercials.
Intuit TurboTax free edition. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, student loan interest, and Schedule 1A.
All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, 1410 ESPN Radio, The Justin Kinner Show. 937-518-1410. If you want to go check out the Raiders at the Nutter Center this Saturday, they're in first place. It's their homecoming game. Again, first 3,500 fans in attendance will get a T-shirt, so make sure you go Saturday night. Text Raiders to 937-518-1410. While supplies last, the chunk of tickets that I have, I will give those out on a first text, first serve basis. So there you go. So 937-518-1410. Text Raiders, and I will start getting those out to you for Saturday night's game against Purdue Fort Wayne, 7 o'clock at the Nutter Center. But they'll be in action tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPNU, by the way. They're at Robert Morris, and we'll have that for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio as well. All right, so let's bring on my guy Shaw here, right? Like, let's see. I mean, unless he gets injured between now and when I bring him on, he should be able to say hello. Shaw, say hello, or did you get hurt?
I'm injured and I'm going on the DL.
Oh, look at you, but you're toughing it out. Toughness, I like it. Good for you.
Yes.
Good for
yes,
you. Yeah.
It's self-improvement.
You're not that bum Eugenio Suarez or Eugenio Suarez, am I right? I mean, my God, he's so bad because he's always hurt. He only played 158 games last year, Shaw.
And it wasn't, and the comment wasn't even about Suarez. It was about the rest of the roster, and it was about the crappy training staff that you've brought up before. But that's not what I called in for. So
I don't need to hang up on you 2 days in a row now, do I?
Well, I didn't call in yesterday. It would have been 2 times.
Oh, that's right. It was a good show yesterday. No, I'm just giving you a hard time, man. What are you calling in for? What you got?
To call in to agree with you about the UD stuff and kind of talk about the Miami stuff, because it's intriguing to me too, with them being down there at 90, and their defensive ranking being at 167. If they lose in the regular season, and then
who's at 160? You said Miami's at 167, right?
Miami's 167th defensive ranking. I think it's going to be hard if they were to lose in the regular season and then lose especially first, maybe even first or second round to make the tournament.
I know, that's why I would have respected the committee, and I don't even know who they are, like the committee. I know I'm used to college football. We're talking about the committee, but I know this sounds bad, but I wouldn't have put Miami in the top 25. I think that the AP top 25, I think, fell for the storyline of being 23-0. Like, and I'm not like, I love this story. I watch. I mean, I've never watched more Miami basketball in my life before. Like, they're a great story. I just don't think they're a top 25 team in the country. I don't believe that they should be in the top 25 because when push comes to shove, when we get to Selection Sunday, I'm going to be fascinated to see if they just get the love because they don't want to get all the backlash of, stringing them along, even though it's not technically them. I understood Notre Dame's gripe a little that the College Football Playoff Committee included them in their rankings the whole time and then at the last second pulled the chair out. That's not what this would be technically. But man, oh man, the backlash that they would get if a top 25 Miami team for more than half the season doesn't get in because of 1 or 2 losses, that'd be insane. But look at the A10. I think St. Louis is phenomenal, but George Mason is 20-2, and they're not in the top 25. Like, you know what I mean? Like a 20-2 George Mason team, I think is probably better than Miami of Ohio. I would love to see a 20-2 George Mason team go up against Miami of Ohio, and I think George Mason probably wins that game. But we're falling for wins have to matter. I get that, but also who you play matters, and I think that they've been given a pass for that for the storyline element.
I completely agree, and it's, to me, it's like the George Mason Miami game. It's, to me, that's what the play-in games are for. That's the type of play-in game that we should be able to see and we should be able to get. But again, the smaller school, whether it be football or basketball, they're always getting crapped on. I have another question, and this goes to UD. Why didn't Miami and UD play this year? I don't understand.
They stopped playing a few years ago. I can't remember if the last time they played, I don't know if AG has been the coach when they've played or not. I really don't know. I think it might have stopped when Archie was here, but I'd have to go back to see the last time they played. It's been a minute, but that used to be a staple as well. But yeah.
When I was younger, that was a huge staple, and that's how my uncle went there, so I was able to go to Millette a couple times and stuff like that. It's just it goes down there with the whole Wright State stuff, that they think they're better than, and they think they're holier than thou, and they don't have to play schools like Miami and Wright State, although Miami and Wright State, not so much Miami, but Wright State makes the tournament more regularly than what UD does.
Well, the last time, real quick, the last time they played, I was going to say it's been a minute. It was 2015. We're talking over a decade. The last time in Miami at UD, and by the way, I got a kick out of this. Dayton only won 64-63 at UD Arena on December 22nd back in 2015. That's the last time that the two teams played.
Yeah, it was probably too close, and that's why they had to get rid of the rivalry. Yep. But my bigger point of why I was calling is it's just the UD thing, and you brought up the shirts and the kids sitting front row saying "Fire AG," and it's so much of a bigger point than what people even want to realize. It's the arrogance of the entire university. It's the arrogance of the basketball team and the basketball, just everything about it. It's the entire program. They think they're better than what they actually are. They think they're bigger than what they actually are. They are a mid-major team. They're a high mid-major team, but they are a mid-major team. Where I will disagree with your interview yesterday a little bit. Yes, I agree amongst mid-majors, coaching staffs are moving nonstop. Just it's a roulette wheel. But once you get to your power fours, then I think it kind of settles down a little bit.
Yeah, like with coaches choosing to leave. Like there's coaching movement. I mean, like Calipari didn't leave Kentucky; he got fired. Like they parted ways. But you don't see coaches leaving one job for another that often or at all. You see it at the mid-major ranks, and that for whatever reason, Dayton was so butthurt about that when Archie did that. And I'm like, but that's the anticipated trajectory of any coach in that line. The only people that were shocked by it were Dayton fans. I don't think anyone out there was shocked. I mean, I remember because I covered that game. I was in Indianapolis when they lost to Wichita State, and I agree that was Wichita State was misseeded. I really wish that last year with Pollard and those guys that they would have been able to close out their careers on a run. But I mean, they were in Indy. But I remember how pissed Archie was when he was addressing the media after the game, and he was just furious. And so was, there are a lot of people that were at UD were furious that a reporter asked about his future. And I'm like, why is everyone upset that they asked? That's the immediate question that everyone's wondering about. And then they gaslighted everybody. And sure enough, his ass was gone not even a month later. So it was wild.
Exactly.
Wild.
It's like, I mean, I've been around the college basketball scene more than I've been around the college football scene. So I've seen this a million times. Yes. And then my dad and I would always get into disagreements because at the time I was a UD guy and he was a Xavier guy.
God, you even argue with your dad? You argue with everybody. My gosh.
At times I have it in my nature. But I mean, it's a healthy argument, just like you and me at times. But he was a Xavier. He still is a Xavier guy, and I've come to realize that a lot of his arguments were completely accurate. Xavier is better than UD. Xavier's always been better than UD, and there's a reason why Xavier's in the Big East and Dayton is not.
But even then, they have coaches who come. I mean, there's a good chance that Richard Pitino, and we talked about this with Paul yesterday, that Providence job, if that opens up. Now, that's not I use Xavier as a stepping stone, but, he got to the Big East, and that's the one job that, that's his, he's a good chance to go there. Yeah.
Well, he didn't use it as a stepping stone, but what he did do is he used it to clean his image again, to make it better. So if Providence did open or another job like that opened up, that he could take the job. I agree that 1 year, I don't know. But the lure of going back home, I think would be huge enough for him. I think that's the only school he would leave Xavier for after the first year. But the fact that it's a possibility just shows the carousel of college basketball. But the fact that UD can sit there after this run with AG and not sit there and to be able to understand the fact that if he's not on the hot seat and he's not let go, and I agree with you, if he doesn't retire, he'll be back next season because it's the easy thing to do. He's an alum of the school, so they don't want to disenfranchise that, and they don't want to embarrass him on that. But what's more embarrassing, the fact that you guys haven't made the tournament, or because you had to fire an ex-alum who was an ex-great on the basketball team back in the 1980s? To me, it's the fact that you can't make the tournament. When you make the NIT tournament, you can't get out of the second round. Every team you face in the A-10 that is worth a darn, you lose to. You lose to teams that you shouldn't lose to every single year. And yet here we are at the end of February going into March, and we're wondering, and UD fans are boo-hooing and crying because they can't get into the dance, because every single year under AG, they lose the games that they should never even single lose to. Archie would do it here and there, and then Gregory would do it from time to time. Purnell would do it from time to time. But those three coaches at least would make the dance on a regular basis.
Archie's real quick, Archie's biggest problem in the regular season was on the rare occasion that they would crack the top 25, and there were a handful of times. Yeah, like Archie's biggest complaint, Dayton was always better as the underdog. Dayton was always better during the Archie years as that's why they thrived in the NCAA tournament, because they were the underdog. They made that Cinderella Elite Eight run. But when they got that top 25 ranking in front of their name, they would always crap the bed. And it's like, because there's Archie. He's a shorter guy. He's always, his back's against the wall. He's always had to fight, claw, and climb. And his team took on that personality. That's why I love the Archie era at UD. Obviously, it hasn't worked for him every other stop that he's been at, but my goodness, it was a totally different vibe. That was his only regular season flaw, because my goodness, he also won the regular season title. I mean, I was some of the best atmospheres I ever experienced at UD Arena were those VCU matchups, and to close out the regular season to win the A-10 titles those years, at least in the regular season. Those were phenomenal games. He was a great regular season coach from beginning to end. AG is a great regular season coach from November to December.
Correct. And I've never heard that arena louder than the end of the Gregory run and the Archie Miller run. That arena was popping every single night. And I'm not saying it doesn't pop now, but it's a completely different pop.
It pops because it's the auto pop. Like it's
13,000.
Yeah. They play the same generic jock jams. Like there's nothing new about it. And that adds to the mystique. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a great atmosphere. Right. I will never say it's not, but you cheer at this point because we always cheer at this point. We clap at this point because we always clap at this point. The song hits, the bells hit as the team's running on the floor. We got to stand up and do our little clap. Everything is just, they're robotic. Everything is robotic. And that's the problem. There's no true, it's just, we cheer because we're supposed, I don't know. They have to freshen it up.
It's frustrating.
They need a whole new,
frustrating.
So
it's frustrating because if they were what UD thinks they are, then it would be magical around here around that basketball team. If it was me and I was the AD, I would be looking at trying to bring Archie back, or I'd be calling Miami up and saying, "Hey, come up here."
I would.
See what you can.
I would do everything in my. Travis Steele should not leave the state. I'm a Jake I'm a Jake Diebler guy, but
I knew that's where you were
he
going.
should not leave the state. If Travis Steele should be the head coach of Ohio State, of Dayton, Xavier obviously not, but UC. I think that Travis Steele should be the head coach of Cincinnati, Dayton, or Ohio State. I'm going to take Ohio State out of there. I don't think they're going to go that route, but UC or UD, Travis Steele should be the head coach of one of those two. And if I'm Dayton, I'm doing everything I can to get Travis Steele. I think that's how you win the crowd back. I think that's how you get people to be excited again and not be excited because, my parents were UD fans, so I'm always excited. I mean, true belief that they can get back to where they were a decade ago during the Archie years.
You said no to Archie. Why did you say no?
I would be concerned about going back to that well. The other thing too is my concern about Archie, and I loved Archie's run, but Archie's run was Kyle Davis. All right. It was the Scoochie Smith. It was the Kendall Pollard. They went and they got Charles Cook out of the portal. You look at the pieces that they were able to get during that time. Seibert out of the portal, or not. It wasn't the portal then. Sorry. But he transferred.
I know what you mean.
But Charles Cook transferred there. Obviously Jordan Seibert transferred there. Like, to me, I didn't get a chance to see Archie do it more than once. And my concern is, was Archie an elite coach, or was he the product of just kicking ass with one recruiting class? We were going to find out who Archie was at UD had he stayed. And the thing is, we never saw him develop it at Dayton or at Indiana. We never saw Archie do it there. I still appreciate everything Archie did at Dayton. I just don't know if Archie has it in him, because we're watching him fail at Rhode Island. He failed at Indiana. And we only watch him really truly succeed with one legit recruiting class. That's why I would be concerned to go back to that well and potentially set you back even further if you go back there again.
I wasn't thinking about it from that realm, but that's also why I kind of disagreed with him taking the Indiana job. Yes, earlier we were talking about how Dayton's a stepping stone. Yep. I agree with that, but I thought Indiana was the wrong stepping stone, because when you think about all the basketball and you draw a circle around Indianapolis, basically Bloomington, and you draw a circle for 150-mile radius and draw a circle around it, think about all the college basketball that's in that circumference of that 150 miles. It's unbelievable when you actually sit there and you look at it. So what I'm getting at is the recruiting base is so fertile for all of these schools. That's why it's hard to coach in this area, because there's so much Division I college basketball talent in this area. And so, I thought Indiana, yes, bigger than UD. Yes, you're in the Big Ten now, and yes, that's bringing in the bigger dollars, but there's a lot of downside that comes with it. And I think that's part of the reason why you've seen Indiana basketball take a step back, and now they're a football school. But it's weird to me when you look at it from the Archie part of it. I completely agree with you. And I wasn't thinking about the fact of, yes, the Indiana didn't work, but it also hasn't worked since then. And I was just kind of basically the nostalgia part of it. Let's bring Archie back and let's go throw it back and let's see if we can run it back again.
I got to be careful with what I say here, too. I got to throw a lot of allegedlys in there. But there's a reason that Sean Miller and Archie Miller were both peaking at the same time. There's a reason that since a certain little thing that happened at Arizona happened, that all of a sudden the Miller brothers don't look like they own college basketball anymore. And let me scooch my seat back up here while I say this. There's some variables that might be missing from the successful coaching runs that both of them had. Now, Sean did fine, but yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I have to be careful with what else I say there. But like I said, there's certain elements that made the Miller brothers really, really good during a certain stretch of time that is no longer there. And that's why both seem to be kind of not floundering, but they're just not thriving like they once were. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's an interesting nugget. I hadn't put that together too, because that's very legit.
If you couldn't hear me, let me scooch back up to the mic and I don't know if you're catching my drift.
Yeah. Yeah. I catch it. But anyhow, moving on. Leaving that.
Yeah.
But No, it's just going bringing it all back and just to close it up. UD basketball should be something at this point at the beginning of February. We should be talking about a team that is firmly in the mix of making the tournament, if not on an every single year basis, every other year at worst. And what I have a problem in the AG era is just it's never that way. It's always, well, how can they get back in the dance? How can they get back on the bubble? They shouldn't be talking about being in the bubble. You're University of Dayton. But the problem of the matter is you're University of Dayton and you're not as big and you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe start playing some teams around here, and maybe that would actually help out your RPI and your Ken Palm and all your other stuff. And maybe you win some games and actually build some pride in the area, and maybe more people wouldn't be bashing you all the time. I hear the music. I know I got to go.
No, go blue. Nope, not letting you do it. There you go. Shaw, appreciate you. All right, good stuff. Wraps it up for us today. Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports. He'll hang out with us tomorrow. We'll talk on things Super Bowl 60. Wright State basketball coming up later on tonight. They're at Robert Morris, 7 o'clock on ESPNU or right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Until tomorrow, this has been the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.